Shenanigans. Truth, lies, 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 shenanigans. Shenanigans. Truth, lies, 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 shenanigans. Shenanigans. Truth, lies, shenanigans. Truth, lies, shenanigans. Truth, lies, shenanigans. Truth, lies, shenanigans. shenanigans. Truth, lies, 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 shenanigans.
Hey, my lovely voters out there. This is Truth, Lies, Shenanigans, the live show for Sunday, November 1st, 2020. We're just 3 days away from the election, so today's show is going to focus on, you guessed it, the election. My name is Neo. I'll be trying to keep the conversations on track and on time. Now, let me introduce you to my co-host for today's show. Across from me, we have the educator and the journalist, Lizzie.
What's up? What's up? Happy Sunday Fun Day, everyone. Like Neo said, 3 days left until the election. 3 days left to turn this MFer around. Let's go. Let's go.
All right. And below me, bringing a perspective from the north of the border, Mr. Rob B.
Happy Sunday Fun Day. Happy everyone. Or happy Sunday, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. A very, very special shout out to a very special young lady today. My niece Ryan is turning 9 tomorrow, and we celebrated her birthday today. So Ryan, I hope you're watching. Happy birthday, my friend.
Happy birthday,
Ryan. Whoop, whoop.
All right, for today's show, it's our pre-election show. We'll talk Lil Wayne. And our quickfire question, then Lizzie will be talking to you about some of the top headlines leading into the election. I'll be asking the question, did Trump actually deliver on his promises? And Rob B will be talking COVID parties and jail time. Don't forget, we are live everywhere. Remember, our shows stream on YouTube, Facebook, Periscope, and Twitter at TLS Live Show. And you can watch us live at truthlieshenanigans.com. Make sure you invite your friends to watch along because we want to get you guys involved in the conversation. Share your comments and questions in all of our live feed. Also, a reminder that you can listen to previous episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, or Amazon Music. Just search for or ask Google, Alexa, or Siri to simply play Truth, Lies, Shenanigans podcast. All right, to start things off, I do have a quick fire question for you guys. Just need your initial reactions. It's about Lizzie's favorite rapper of all time.
Method Man?
All right. This past week, Lil Wayne posted a pic of him and Chump on Twitter saying he had a great meeting, he listened, he'll get it done, blah, 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 blah. Then 50 Cent, who also endorsed Chump earlier in the week, tweeted he would never have took this picture. So question to you guys, does 50 Cent have room to talk, or is he right and the picture with Chump is worse? Lizzie?
5 Cent needs to go sit down somewhere and shut his mouth. It was just a week and a half ago that 5 Cent came out, endorsed Trump, saying, I don't care if Trump doesn't like black people. F Biden, I'm not paying more taxes, so I'm voting for Trump. Even though I don't even think he's going to vote to begin with. But no, 5 Cent needs to go somewhere with that nonsense.
Robbie?
I'm with Liz on this 100%. I mean, if you're shooting your mouth off if you're shooting your mouth off and doing the same thing as somebody else did, but minus the photo op, I'm sorry, you still went out and used social media and you put yourself out there. It's the same shenanigans. But
Right.
the one thing I'm curious about is, why does Lil Wayne look like he just graduated from Hogwarts?
That's funny.
Honestly, Rob, this is a stepped up from his normal look, because normally he looks like a gremlin, like something that you find like down in the sewer that's been, in the nasty water with the rats and all of that stuff for like a couple of months. So this is a step up. He's glammed up. This is glow up, if you will.
Well, I got a little different perspective. So the optics are just bad. All I can see is Malcolm X's house Negro. Long as he gets treated good, the rest of y'all be damned. So, yeah, although it isn't much different, I gotta agree with 50 Cent. I mean, 50 Cent was just conceptual. Lil Wayne is like visual. I mean, it looks bad.
Lil Wayne, this is what people need to understand about Lil Wayne and why you shouldn't take him seriously. Lil Wayne is a drug addict. Lil Wayne is always addicted to and is always high on lean, aka purple drink. So he probably wasn't even coherent when he took this picture. Or unless, of course, the POTUS and Wayne had some purple drink in the back before the picture was taken. And for those of you who don't know what lean, aka purple drink is, it's liquid codeine and alcohol.
Oh, wow.
It can be lethal. It is disgusting.
I believe some of our audience may not actually know Lil Wayne, but let me just show this real quick.
Personally doesn't see racism because so many of his fans are white.
I thought that was clearly a message that there was no such thing as racism.
What's your thought on Black Lives Matter?
Come on now.
What do you mean?
The Black Lives Matter.
It just sounds weird. I didn't know that you put a name on it. It's not a name. It's not whatever. It's somebody got shot by police for reason. I am a young, black, rich. If that don't let you know that America understands Black matter these days, I don't know what it is. Don't come at me with that dumb man. My life matter, especially to my. So I don't feel connected to a damn thing that ain't got nothing to do with me.
Yes, that's why I'm saying Malcolm X house Negro. He don't care about nobody else but him.
Malcolm X would never even let this guy in the yard, let alone in the house, to be his Negro. Okay. But are we really taking political advice? Are we paying attention to a political endorsement from Lil Wayne? Someone who says, he don't care about anyone except his bitches. And that was a quote. So don't give me any points for cursing.
No, if you were quoted, you would have said, beep.
Nah. Again, this is the same guy who said, he doesn't think there's racism because his white cameraman, someone he pays, like him, is nice to him. Yeah. So I don't know what's going on with rappers in 2020, but
I don't know.
People start banning all rappers henceforth.
I'm trying to give them money with their taxes. That's all. All right, we gave you a little taste, but let me tell you, our viewers, what Truth Lies Shenanigans is all about. We'll be sharing our truths and opinions with you, calling out the lies and pointing out the ridiculous shenanigans going on, much like Lil Wayne. But most importantly on this show, we try to have fun with shenanigans of our own. But one rule for the hosts, there is no cussing, or you will be charged a $10 penalty if you're caught cussing 3 times in the same show.
Let's see.
He wrote me beautiful letters.
You'll be writing a love letter to Trump. Today is actually the last day before we have to pay up and come up with another punishment. We'll be donating the cussing fund to a charity after the election. So, Lizzie, you got a lot to donate. You can write it off on taxes.
Listen, if Trump can boast about not leaving the White House if he doesn't win, I can boast about not paying this ridiculous fine for game. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we have to figure this out. But okay, all right, Lizzie, we are going to turn things over to you for our election discussion. All right, Lizzie, what do we got going on with this election?
Vote 2020, people. Like we said at the top of the show, 3 days left until Tuesday's general election for President of the United States. We are just going to quickly recap what's been going on over the past couple of days. As of yesterday, Saturday, 91.6 million Americans have gone out and done early voting, have already casted their vote. This is unprecedented in this country. It's almost double than what we had in 2016. So I want to put it out to Neo and Rob B. What do you think about this? Are you inspired by these numbers?
Rob B?
I think that the numbers make sense because your country is in complete disarray at this point in time. And I think that there's a lot of desperate people that either want to see change, or there are a lot of people who are scared, who don't want to see change, and both sides are coming out and voting hard. So I don't know that it's necessarily inspirational, but at least the voters, the people are getting out there to have their voice be heard. I really hope, hey, we got the right guy on the show. Love
this time.
It would have just been great if you could have moved your mouth while I was speaking. No, try to pass that one off.
Neil's trying to plagiarize there, Get credit for Rob.
Yeah, for that comment. It's a great comment. I want to get credit for it.
If anything, I am happy to see that the American people are getting out and they are trying to have their voices be heard. And I just hope that there won't be too many disruptions with the political system, and that it'll be a fair and above board election.
Yeah. So for me, so one of the most absolutely important things that the Democrats must do, because what we're learning from this is turnout is key, and turnout has always been key for Democrats, right? But if, and assuming they ride the wave of voter turnout and Biden and the Senate and everyone else in the House, they take over the House, going forward, what they're going to need to do is make sure that it's easy to vote. Because you look at these lines, and these lines are absolutely ridiculous. It has to be easier for people to vote, and they're going to have to figure that out. They might only have 2 years to do it, too, because, as soon as, right now people hate Trump. That's why they're coming out to vote. That's why they're willing to stand in 3-hour lines to get rid of Trump. That is the reason. Now, when we come midterms, there may not be that same enthusiasm from Democrats to stand in lines for 3 hours. So they're going to have to figure it out. This COVID times gave them a blueprint of how to make it work, but they're going to have to figure out how to make it easier to vote because, again, all these lines and even these are early voting lines. Let's keep that in mind. These are early voting lines. So there are going to be lines on election day as well. So the turnout is fantastic. I think it's beautiful.
What else? It's exposing also with, early voting, with the high number of turnout, is that early voting, it started a week ago. In terms of being able to actually stand online to vote. And so what is exposing is the high level of voter intimidation and voter suppression in this country.
Yep.
Because without early voting, without all eyes on early voting for an entire week, we would only get this story about voter intimidation, voter suppression for one day on election day. But over the course of the past week, we've seen several stories across the country of various incidents of voter intimidation, suppression. We've had police officers going to polling sites, to cast their ballots, to place their vote with MAGA hats, with Trump paraphernalia. You're not supposed to have any political messages on your person in your hand when you go
Election
vote.
engineering. Yep.
You are law enforcement, particularly if you are an elected official. There have been incidents of people being turned away. There have been incidents of, we know all about how there are not as many polling stations open as there normally would be.
Yep.
The government is trying to say that's because of COVID. No, they're trying to get less people to vote. So all of that is being exposed, and all of that is something that we really need to pay attention to as we move forward in this democratic process.
Yep. And if you look at the voter turnout for young people, like as of October 23rd, 5 million early voters of young people 18 to 29. I mean, that's phenomenal to me. I mean, they grew up with Trump and all this division and all these other things, and they are getting out and making their voices heard. I remember when Trump won, my nieces and nephews were devastated when Trump won. I mean, can you imagine like how they would feel if Trump were to win now? That's why I'm glad. I mean, I think, this may be a silver lining to a bad storm, but I think the Trump presidency has led to a lot of young people wanting to get involved in politics in general.
And it also, I think, leads to people seeing, like, once you go and vote, especially in the general election, you go and vote and you look at that ballot and you realize, okay, I'm not just voting for president.
Right.
I'm also voting,
Yes.
if you live in a state, you're voting possibly for a congressperson, you're voting possibly for a Senate seat. You're also voting for, local people in your local area. Okay. So, in DC, for example, I mean, we don't have a Senate seat here, but, it's, you vote for president and then you vote for the congressional seat and then you vote for city council seats. There are at-large city council seats at stake.
Yep.
There are ANC seats at stake. So it's not just about president.
It's not.
It's about what's going on in your state, in your neighborhood, your local communities. That's why it's very important for people to get out and vote.
Yeah, and that's to my earlier point. I'm sorry, Rob. To my earlier point, as Lizzie was saying, getting out to vote. I mean, right now with this voter turnout, it's gonna. I believe the down ballot is going to be primarily Democratic because of this turnout, which is great. Because again, there needs to be a change of guard, simply because too many of the Republicans sided with Trump and his negativity and all that stuff. So there needs to be a change of guard in general. But come the midterms again, where are we going to pull from this excitement? Well, this negative, infamous feeling towards Trump. They're going to have to figure something out. But I mean,
and it's how. Again, you got to get the message out. Like, voting is just the first step.
Yeah.
It's like when you want to go somewhere, you want to drive your car. It's just putting the key in the door.
Yeah.
It's not getting you to your destination. You still have a whole series of steps that you have to take before you get to your destination, before you get to your end game. So let's all, get that key out, put it in the door, and let's go. Let's get started.
This is my actual ballot, by the way. Just want to point that out. But
Now, be careful out there, people posting your ballots. You have to take a look at what the rules are for posting ballots in your state, and don't post your name. Don't post anything that you're not supposed to, because, the feds, they will come after you 100%.
They do try.
Absolutely. One comment that came up on our thread that I wanted to share, just when we were speaking about voter suppression and intimidation. There is a toll-free number if you are feeling intimidated or if you have questions about your credentials. 1-866-OUR-VOTE. They have legal teams that are there to protect you and to help answer your questions.
Good point, Rob.
I'm going to get some comments online before we move on to the next topics. But so Ripka said, Rob B made sure to say your country. Yes, Rob B. We are ashamed. Don't rub it in. Paulette Bertrand said, "We all feel for you." Roka also said, "Let's remember Hillary won the popular vote." I'm just saying. Kevin Thaxton, there wasn't a line yesterday morning. Yeah, there wasn't a line when I went to vote as well. So, oh yeah, so Jacqueline Robinson posted the call number as well. Go ahead, Lizzie. What were we gonna say?
No, I just, in anticipation of this election, there's some other things that are going on here in Washington, D.C., and also in New York City. So currently, again, elections on Tuesday, November 3rd. Currently, D.C. is boarding up certain buildings, certain businesses, certain shops in anticipation of the election, in anticipation of possible social unrest, civil unrest, riots, protests. Most of the boarding up of the buildings in Washington D.C. are occurring down in the downtown area, DuPont Circle, Lafayette Square. Lafayette Square is around the White House, Pennsylvania Avenue. But that picture that Neo has up now, that's across the street from my apartment here at Southwest Waterfront. And so various local businesses, in anticipation of some type of unrest, whether it be if Trump wins or if Biden wins, they are thinking, okay, I have to protect my business. We just came off of a summer where there were a lot of protests, a lot of looting, some destruction of property. We don't want to see that again. And so I just want the panel to think about this for a second. Normally in this country, because boarding up businesses is not unheard of in this country. Normally we do this for hurricanes. We do it in anticipation of a riot or some type of violence or whatever. Never do we do it for an election. This is unprecedented. So what does this say to you about what's going on with election 2020?
Robbie, did you want to comment?
Sure. To me, it's very indicative of the state of the country at this point in time, just how polarized the nation is, because that's like you said, for corporations to be sending out an edict or all CVS stores to be boarded up. They're thinking about it at a corporate level. They're thinking about the significant losses that are going to be had. And that's it. It's whether Trump wins or whether Biden wins. What kind of unrest are you going to get from the other side of the fence? Like my mom had posted earlier, like, we feel for you. There's a lot of anxiety in Canada over what's going to happen post-election as this is going on and the numbers really start coming in. Everything leading up to a final decision, because I feel that it's going to be tied up legally. It's going to be tied up however he can to fight for every minute that he can stay in office. But the fact that businesses are boarding it up, that doesn't surprise me at all. We're going to see more of it.
I mean, to Robbie's question, I'm curious, what do you guys think as far as who's going to create more violence? If Trump wins, is there going to be more violence if Trump wins or more violence if Biden wins? What are your thoughts?
So I was in a thread earlier this week where someone was asking that very same question as it relates to Washington, D.C. And they said, this just shows that, D.C. is afraid that Trump is going to win because, D.C. is a liberal city. And so they wouldn't riot or they wouldn't protest if Biden won. And obviously this was someone who is not from the area, is not from the DMV. This kid grew up in Wisconsin somewhere. And I'm like, well, you don't understand, like, where Washington, D.C., the city, the nation's capital, may be overwhelmingly Democrat. The suburbs, the surrounding two states, the bordering two states are not. Virginia and Maryland have a huge number of conservative. I mean, think about the white supremacists that, invaded Charlottesville back in, I believe it was 2016, 2017, if you will, 2017, mm-hmm. I think it was, where someone died, a young lady died. And so I would not put it past, if Biden won, I would not be surprised if we have the Proud Boys of Virginia, if we have the white supremacists and the KKK coming out from the woods in Maryland. I would not be shocked.
Well, DC
democratic island where we are so far removed from all of the other unrest that goes on, racial unrest that goes on in this country.
Yeah, DC is typically a hotbed in general because, that's where people come to protest. If they want to protest anything with the government, they're going to come. So, I can see it either way that there would be somebody down there. But are you going more for Biden, or you think more unrest with Biden or more unrest with Trump?
I don't think I've waited. Honestly, I really didn't think about it that much, even though I was involved in that conversation. I kind of dismissed what that young man had to say because he wasn't from here. But it wasn't until I saw these images this morning where they were boarding up the CVS across the street where I said, are we really about to do this? Okay. All right.
What do you think? What do you think is going to...
I don't know that there's a happy ending either way. I think there's going to be violence either way. I know that part of the conversation with a lot of my countrymen is the fear of an all-out civil war breaking out south of the border because everything is so polarized. It's a powder keg. Their stress is so high with everything that's happening, and it all it takes is one event to just set the rest of the dominoes in motion. We had about a month and a half ago, was it in Michigan? They had a kidnapping plot that already laid out for the governor. That's not the only action that's been planned by right-wing militant groups. So these vigilantes are scary, and whether if Trump wins, there's going to be parties in the streets. There's going to be a lot of angry people who will want to suppress those parties, who will not want to hear that noise. So,
in my opinion, I honestly believe that if Trump wins, I think it will be worse. Because we saw the worldwide protests that occurred when he won the first time in 2016. There were worldwide protests. They weren't violent protests, but they were worldwide. This time, and that was before we really knew what we were getting with Trump. We had a pretty good idea of what we were getting with Trump, but we didn't know. Like we kind of felt like, okay, maybe he could be presidential, maybe he could learn to understand the office, or surround himself with people. But we know everything we got with Trump was worse than what we thought it was in 2016. It's worse than what we thought it was. And so now I believe that if he were to win again, the feelings and emotions that will happen will just be ridiculous. We've seen unrest, we've seen protests throughout his presidency at this point, from day one. So I think it's gonna elevate.
So let me ask you this: what if he loses?
Yeah, and if you
and refuses to leave?
Okay, then that would be crazy.
I kind of think that our people in DC are not going to go for that.
Nope.
I kind of think that folks are going to storm the streets, storm the area, Lafayette Square in front of the White House, and demand that he get his ass out. Yeah. So that's another aspect of
I didn't even think about that, actually. Him choosing not to leave.
If he refuses to leave, like, a lot of people are going to be like, no, we're not doing this anymore. Get out. Yeah. Get out.
I really don't think the government will allow it in general. I think I don't think the Republicans would allow it. It depends on how close it's going to be. At this point, with the voter turnout, and this was, I think, something else that you were going to speak to, and it's kind of a segue, I guess, but, with the voter turnout, it's pointing to Democrats. It usually leans Democratic when there's high voter turnout. So, there's a good chance he loses, I hope. I've been scared to say that because I always feel like if I say that, then people will get complacent. But we have to get this guy out. We have to continue to talk about it, to get people out there voting. We can't just sit back and say, oh, we're good. All this voter turnout is great and we're done.
That's That's another thing because we keep talking about voter turnout and people getting out to vote, if you will. And so I just want to take it back a little bit to, our question at the top of the segment in our quick fire.
Mm-hmm.
With all of these rappers, how many of you think Lil Wayne
rapper
voted?
of all time? Yeah.
How many of you think, and this is to our viewing audience as well, how many of you think Lil Wayne voted 4 years ago?
Oh, that's good.
How many of you think Ice Cube voted 4 years ago? 50. Kanye. This is what we need to start exposing these people for. They are using their celebrity to put out a certain message based on their personal business situations. But they haven't consistently been voting. Ice Cube admitted that this is the first time that he has really paid attention to politics.
Yep.
So that MFR ain't voting, hasn't voted, hasn't been a part of the democratic process. I know Wayne ain't put the lean down, didn't put the purple drink down to go vote in 2016. So we really need to be careful about who we decide to look to for representation when it comes to politics, especially when these people are in different tax brackets who don't have the same struggles as the common man on the street. 50 was talking about, 5 Cent was talking about how he was upset with the Biden plan because of the increase in taxes. That's for Americans who make over $400,000 a year. That's not the average American. So why are you encouraging the average man to vote for someone who's still gonna dig in their pockets and dig deep? I don't understand the celebrity pool. Like I never want to say, celebrities don't have the right. I think everyone in this country has the right to make their voice heard about politics and who, they are encouraging, who they share an ideology with. But at the same time, it has to make some sense. If you are an American, you are not even middle class. You are maybe upper lower class. You're making maybe $45,000 a year. How is what 50 Cent, 5 Cent, Lil Wayne, all of them, how is that affecting you? Your taxes are not going to go up. You don't make $400,000 a year. I don't make $400,000 a year. And I'm not listening to someone who is a drug addict, someone who is constantly posting things about how he hates his son. That would be 5 Cent. Kanye, who,
He called himself 20 Cent at least.
Yeah.
5 Cent. And I want to say 5 shillings, but 5 Cent, we'll go with 5 Cent. But even Kanye, Kanye, vacillates.
Yeah.
Vacillates. Because last year he said he felt like he had been duped by Trump. Now he's back in the conversation talking about, okay, I kind of support Trump, even though I think I want to run, but I have no problem running under the guise of I'm taking votes away from Joe Biden. Like, you got to pay attention to what these people are saying and what their end game is. And think about also, one last point, think about all the people, the Black folks that Trump are dragging out and putting in front of the camera and saying, this person is endorsing me, Black people, follow him. Mm-hmm. They're not politicians. They're not educators. They're not lawyers. They're not doctors.
You say you use your favorite word.
What, Coon? I was getting there. These are he is picking the same type of rapper over and over and over. Rappers, if you will. Not even women, not even Black women, but rappers over the past month. And so this is how he sees the Black community. This is the bar. He thinks that that's our glass ceiling. Yeah. Versus, there are hundreds of thousands of other people, Black people, who are more influential that he could have picked, that he could have reached out to. There are a lot of Black Republicans in this country.
Yeah.
But there are. And so,
nothing wrong with being a Republican. I mean, I'm just saying.
I said Black Republican.
There's nothing wrong with being a Black Republican.
Yeah, there is.
No, it isn't.
But that's a whole other conversation. That's a whole other conversation.
I am not a Black Republican, but I'm just saying there's nothing wrong with being a Black Republican.
Are you a white Republican?
I am not a Republican.
I think Liz really brought up some salient facts, though. It's, who are you taking your political advice from? I'm sorry, if I had an interest in becoming a hip hop artist, I may go to Face Tattoo Lil Wayne and say, hey, give me some pointers.
Face tattoo,
But if I'm going to look for pointers on how to live my life successfully and be a good person, or how to hedge my votes or to vote ethically, I'm not going to Lil Wayne. I'm not going to Ice Cube. I'm not going to people out of my tax bracket. I'm not going to people who have absolutely no understanding of what my life situation is. And that's it. If I want advice, if I want legal advice, I go to a lawyer. So that's it. Why aren't we getting more information? What are the poli-sci professors talking about? What are the experts? Who are they endorsing? Because that's important, because they understand the complexity of the entire political machine. So let's do it.
I do want to get to the comments. There's a lot of comments online. I want to get to some of them.
I don't mean to laugh, but Mike Wolf just,
I saw it.
That was a good one.
Like with other Black Republicans, Herman Cain was not available. Yeah, it's very true. I mean, thanks to COVID. Ade says Kanye is talking about running for governor if he doesn't continue the presidential run. Kevin Thaxton has a bunch of comments. None of them are intellectuals, doctors, teachers, etc. Kanye is a mental case. Wayne is an idiot. Curtis does not like to pay his child support. I'm super certain that those rappers never voted. Jacqueline Robbins says they will squawk about Obama, that he did nothing for the Black community, yet when they're asked what they did for the Black community, when they are asked what they did for the Black community themselves, they're cricket.
Well, no, they've done more for Black community since Lincoln. I mean, that's been the statement. They have done something.
And listen, think about the type. There are a lot of conscientious, good rappers out there, male and female. Trump hasn't tapped into any of them.
Nope.
None of them are jumping on the Trump bandwagon.
None of them are interested. I think anyone. I mean, if you look at the people, they're either they seem to be either poorly educated or they have other interests, financial interests. So back to the previous conversation we were talking about. On another note, if he loses, hopefully Biden shuts down the country coast to coast for a 30-day COVID lockdown. The USA has lost COVID battle so far, so sad. Jose says the world will be watching on November 3rd. And Ade says the Secret Service will be taking care of 45 leaving. Also, speaking about the unrest real quick, more unrest will come from 45's camp, says Ade. Jose says at this point, it is almost lose-lose situation. There will be mayhem regardless. It's so sad, so wrong. I honestly have no words. And Ropka says, Trump. My dad said he will call the army and we should be very worried. Trump is deadly.
If you guys don't have any liquor in the house heading into Tuesday's election, I suggest you go out and get you a bottle.
Guns are flying off the shelf.
That's not encouraging to me.
How do you know? Walmart had to shut down. They took guns out of their store because they were flying off the shelf.
They took them out and then they put them back, and now they're talking about taking them out again. Walmart doesn't know what they want to do. If they didn't take guns out of their store,
and they took them out specifically for the election recently.
Okay, gotcha. Jim offering just a little reprieve.
Yeah. Yeah, we needed a break from all that Trump talk, but we're going to get back into some Trump talk.
But there's one more point that we have to make, and this is about the conscience and the integrity of our current POTUS. So the next little tidbit we're going to share with you guys is about the MAGA Trump Brigade. The MAGA Trump Brigade.
What's that?
The MAGA Truck Brigade, if you will.
Oh.
So yesterday in Texas, the Biden campaign, the Democratic campaign for Biden and Harris, they were supposed to make a campaign stop in Texas. They're driving down the highway in Texas. in a big bus, in a Biden-Harris bus. It is all of the wording, all of the signs are all over the bus. Next thing you know, on the highway, they are surrounded in cars in what we've been told were large SUVs and pickup trucks, all with Trump signs, all with MAGA signs, some with megaphones, screaming, surrounding the bus, trying to block it in on a highway. Very intimidating. Other motorists on the same highway started to call the police because it could have been a potential accident. It was not safe. I do think that one car was involved in a small fender bender as a result of this. And so now the FBI is launching an investigation to see if anyone needs to go to jail. Not only would this be, reckless driving, reckless behavior, but a host of other charges could come as a result of this. And so a lot of people in various cars took pictures or video of what happened on the highway in Texas. And our president, Donald J. Trump, he tweeted some of that footage with the caption, "I love Texas." I love Texas. My gents, how do you feel about that?
This is full circle to the shenanigans about what's going to happen after the election. He incites his voter base to just behave in the poorest of fashion, and he supports it. He puts it up on a pedestal. Hey, look at what my people are doing. Hey, if you're for me, this is what you should be doing. There's no decorum left in the office of the president. It's shameful, and you need a changing of the guard. That kind of behavior makes me sick. I'm glad the FBI is investigating it, because if people were behaving in a manner that endangered others, they should be held to account. Yeah. And President Trump should have been asking his people to stand down so that the electoral process can continue unimpeded.
Yep. That's what a leader does. That's what a leader does.
Yeah.
Neo?
I'm gonna just keep it quick because we're out of time. But yeah, I mean, this is what he does. He does this exact same thing, and this is exactly what he does. He incites his base to what they want to do, and so that's why we're dealing with what we're dealing with now. This is exactly why he's got to go. But, all right, so let's move on. Let's move on to our. Yep.
Vote or die.
Yep. We're gonna move on to our hot topics. So the way hot topics works, and that didn't work. All right.
Not like that.
Here we go. It's working now. All right. So the way this works is one of our hosts will start us out and tell us if their topic is a truth, lie, or shenanigans. They'll tell you what's going on in the world, and then we'll talk about it until time is up. Our friend Genji will drop in, as he did earlier, and let us know when time is up. Then we'll stop and go to our live audience questions and comments online, and we'll talk about it for a little bit more. Just make sure you're talking to us as you have been. And then once we're done, we just go on to our next host. And I'm going to go ahead and start us off, and we're still talking Trump. All right, so for my topic, I want to take a look at how well Trump delivered on his campaign promises. Now we know he opened his campaign like this.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're not sending you. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us. They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
Oh, a game popped up. Let me get rid of that. Hold on. And of course, he decided that he was going to build a wall.
I will build a great, great wall on our southern border, and I will have Mexico pay for that wall. Mark my words.
Now, as we know, Mexico felt this way about it.
Not now, not ever.
México no pagará ningún muro.
I'm not going to pay for that wall.
All right, so I have some data here, but my question to you guys is simply, how well do you think Trump delivered on his campaign promises? Now, try to give a percentage of, promises made to promises kept, like 10%, 50, 90%. Just give me what you think he accomplished as far as accomplishing his promises. Lizzie?
Y'all remember Christopher Williams, his song Promises, Promises, They Don't Keep. Trump ain't kept the promise. What are you talking about?
So you're like 0%, no promises.
Zero.
Robbie, what do you think?
Well, I mean, he promised a Great Wall, and he's gotten sections of a pretty
not
good
just on the
wall.
wall, all of his promises. I'm talking about all the campaign promises. What percentage did he do?
Percentage of the wall?
No, percentage of promise.
Well, he's definitely enacted some laws that have favored his friends, and those were promises that were made at the onset. And whether those were public or private promises, I'm willing to say that he's maintained 20%. He's maintained his promises to Vladimir Putin.
They've done that. So you said 8%. You're at 8%. I saw Thaxton say minus 2%.
Sure, I'll go with 8. Why not?
All right. So here's the actual numbers. So out of this is by PolitiFact, and out of the actual promises, he kept 24% of his promises, 25 total. He compromised on about 20%, and he broke almost 50%. There's 5% of stalled promises, and any zero in the works, actually. So, I mean, he did not keep his promises on about 50%. I just want to go, one of the big ones was repeal Obamacare, build a wall, of course, what we talked about. Now, he did suspend immigration from terror-prone places.
Certain terror-prone places. Saudi Arabia, they still killing people, still running around here.
Yeah.
And that's where he has a lot of money invested. So, yeah.
Yep. He cut taxes for everyone, right? So he cut taxes briefly for the middle class, but mostly for the upper class. And then, of course, lower the business tax rate. He definitely delivered on that. But if you look at his promises, right? Look at how horrible some of these promises are. Like dramatically scale back the EPA, open up libel laws, meaning defamation laws. So he can freely sue people who defame him. Declare China a currency manipulator. I mean, these are just terrible promises that he made. Appoint a special prosecutor to investigate Hillary Clinton, and still didn't deliver on his terrible promises. He was. And I do want to point out one last thing. They also kept up with.
It's like a video game.
They kept up with. This is what they did for Obama meter on his promises. So if you look here, we're looking at promises kept. Is in the blue, and it's about 50% there or so. So these are the actual numbers. PolitiFact shows that 48% of Obama's promises were kept, while another 28% were part of a compromise. He only broke 24%. So if anybody is comparing how well Trump did versus Obama, of course he had an extra term, but Obama did significantly better percentage-wise. So,
can I just point out very quickly, going back to his original declaration about Mexicans and the type of people that they're sending here, and he specifically pinpointed rapist. Lest we forget that this is a president who has numerous sexual assault allegations against him that are currently pending in a court of law, Not only that, Donald Trump Jr., his son, Don Jr.'s current girlfriend, Kimberly Guilfoyle, I think that's how you pronounce her name. She used to be a person on-air personality at Fox. It came out a couple of months ago that Fox paid $4 million to settle a harassment lawsuit against her.
Wow.
So it seems that these people, these bad people, aren't necessarily coming from Mexico. They're coming from the White House. They're coming from the Trump family. Grab him by the pussy. That was even before he got elected. He told you what he thought of women in this country. So don't put that on the Mexicans. Look in the mirror. Listen to Michael Jackson, Man in the Mirror, Donald J. Man in the Mirror.
Yeah. Any last comments, Rob?
No. It's just, but that's it. I mean, it's just the type of person that he is. I know recently I saw a clip of him just hanging out with Epstein, and they're ogling the young girls that are dancing on the floor, and it's just like, he's such an unethical person. Just, yeah.
Yeah, my whole point was, if anybody tells you, any Trump person tries to tell you that Trump was a good president, delivered on his promises, did this, did that, let them know they're some liars. Because Trump didn't do squat.
Tell him to call Lizzie. I'll tell him.
29%. And I think they were being generous on that 29%, if I'm being honest. So, anyway. All right. So, let's go to the comments online. Sorry. Friends with Epstein, just saying, Jose. All right. Roka says, I'm safer with the Mexicans. That's funny. Jacqueline Robinson, did you notice how he and Melania will never have a How We Met segment? I think Epstein had something to do with that.
Catalog. I think I can find one of those catalogs. You know, we can bring that out. That's how they met, mail order. You know.
Jacqueline Robinson guessed at about 10% when you factor in the cruelty towards immigrants and South American and Muslims. Yeah, and that was the other point. It's like he made these promises and he did 29% of them, but they were horrible promises that he was delivering on. Horrible promises. Anyway, all right. Rob B, Truth, Lies, Shenanigans.
Take us home, Rob B.
More true shenanigans. More shenanigans. And this one just caught my eye because it seemed to be a little bit more in your backyard.
Why has it got to be in my backyard?
It's Ireland. I mean, if Johnny can say that, she knows I live in Canada, it's a big place, man.
That's right.
But Maryland, I can say that's your backyard, man. So back in March of this year, Sean Marshall Myers decided to throw a huge party, and this was after the emergency order had been declared. That there were no gatherings to be had over 10. So multiple officers in Hughesville, Maryland, went and they reported on scene, at which point Myers was very belligerent with them, but after a little bit of coaxing, disbanded the party. So he was very compliant. He was a little bit belligerent, but compliant in the end. The very next week, decided to throw another bonfire party. And this time when the authorities showed up, he refused to break up the party. He was encouraging his guests to remain and practice their civil liberties, practice their freedoms, that they had the right to assemble, despite the fact that there was a standing order from Larry Hogan for the state of emergency on large gatherings. So at that point, they cuffed him, they took him away. And just last week, September 25th, so actually on my wife's birthday, the state attorney for Charles County basically said that this guy's going to do,
of course, it was Charles County.
So 1 year of active incarceration. So he's getting jailed for a year and doing 3 years of probation and a $5,000 fine.
Yes. Yes.
So tell me how you feel, Neo. I want to go with you first.
Yeah. I mean, these COVID parties are ridiculous. I mean, there's got to be penalties. I'm glad that Hogan is doing what he's supposed to do and enforcing this. We, for example, my wife and I, of course, my wife owns a fitness studio, Pos Cycling and Fitness. Shameless plug. But for Halloween, we were throwing a party for kids, socially distanced, outdoor, and we had to make sure that people were spread out perfectly. And it's hard to deal with kids, but you have to do all these things. And I mean, because of the health pandemic, we don't want to make the problem worse or be part of the problem, but this guy doesn't care, and there's got to be penalties when people don't follow the rules. I mean, people are dying. People are dying. Lizzie? I think we lost your
audio.
lost your audio. we gotta,
Oh no.
we gotta get her a techie husband.
No, yeah, a techie husband and a Bama bestie who works on an Apple, not this Surface nonsense. But anyway, when I first saw this picture that Rob B posted up for this story, I looked at the guy and I was like, okay, so that is
Let me put it back up.
From the Rascals. He's having some issues because things did not turn out in his best interest for him over the years. But he looks just like, the poor man's alfalfa. Bless his heart.
I don't think, I'm sure some of our audience knows who alfalfa is.
Oh, yeah, I guess we're old. I keep forgetting we're old.
We're
old.
I'm not owning it. You can own it.
Gray. Who has gray? I don't have any gray.
This isn't gray. This is just
white. It's white.
Yeah, I just brush in some silver coloring. That's all.
Some bleach.
Bleach. Yeah, just a little bleach.
Who still has a bunch of hair? When I met you, Neo,
I know what you're talking about.
You had a lot of hair.
I don't know what you're talking about. we got to do a day when we show like show our kid pictures.
COVID parties, I don't understand. I don't. I mean, technically, this wasn't necessarily a COVID party where they were intentionally trying to get COVID.
Right.
This was just, I think, a party during COVID.
Right.
But both of them are a bit ridiculous at this point. Like, the numbers are surging.
Right.
The numbers are surging.
Yep.
We've broken records almost every day this week for the number of positive cases. And y'all want to twerk and have a party?
Yep.
Like, I do not understand. I do not understand at all. Yes, jail. Lock him up. Lock him up. Lock him up.
My wife and I got into an interesting debate about it because for myself, I think that a year of jail time is adequate and the $5,000 fine is also adequate. And my wife was like, oh, no, really fine them hard. Make it financially painful for them because the taxpayer has to flip the bill for the incarceration. But
I agree with her.
On the flip side, if this bozo is just paying a fine and still has that mindset and is still willing to go out and celebrate, gather largely, because you're not going to deter someone who thinks like this. They're still going to have the COVID parties. They're not going to care about the implications of their actions. They're not going to mask up. They're not going to follow the rules. So how many people are they going to infect and cost your healthcare system millions of dollars? So the 1 year incarceration, I think, fits.
Yeah, I'm good with the incarceration.
I'm good with the incarceration and the $250,000 fine. You got to do where it hurts. You got to do where it hurts.
It seems a lot of people online kind of agree with the heavy fine. So we got Kevin Thaxton. The imprisonment to probation ratio should be reversed, and 10 times the fine as well. Yeah, Jose says 5,000 not enough.
250.
250 is a lot. That might be a little.
That's the point.
I mean, I would think like after about the third, this should be high.
You got to come out the gate You got to come out the gate making your presence known. We are not playing with you fools anymore. COVID party, violating rules, violating laws, state mandates. 250 to start.
Mike Wolf says people violating COVID protocol.
Second violation, 500,000. I know I sound like a Republican right now, but 500,000.
Good Lord. All right, Mike Wolf says people violating COVID protocols. Justin Turner should be kicked out of baseball.
Yes.
Rupka says, can we stop family gatherings and lock those people up too that participate? I don't know. You can have a good socially distanced family gathering. We've had a couple. I mean, we were outdoors.
I went to my one social gathering over the summer. It was a socially distanced picnic. And I was kind of shocked at how well everything was set up. There was no picnic. You think picnic
Yeah.
tables, food, everyone. No, everyone bought their own food. People
One
brought
server.
their chairs.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone had a mask on. Everyone was socially distanced apart. It was great.
Yeah.
It was great. It was
You can have some good socially distanced. And
Yeah.
I mean, the fact remains, we know more about COVID now, and masks are the key. Masks are the key because it's mostly airborne. Transmission by touching is not even the primary means of transmission. So, I think we've learned enough where we can do good. This guy is crazy, but I think we can hold good social gathering. All right, guys, that is it for our hot topics. So it is now time to jump into our game show and close out the show right. All right, so today's game is election trivia, round robin style. I'll read off a trivia question and the multiple choice answers. You get it right, you get a point, and you get it wrong, you get a buzz. Person with the most points at the end of the game gets our final thought. All right, election trivia. So, where did it go? My election trivia went away.
See?
Let's see if we can pull that. All right. So this is an example. When was the last time a third-party candidate won any electoral votes? Any guesses? Any?
Ross Perot?
What was the year?
92.
No, I don't know.
92? Nope, 1968. It was already up. Okay. So, all right.
Yay.
Are we ready, Lizzie? Starting with you. After he left the White House, President Theodore Roosevelt stood for election in 1912 as the candidate of what party? Libertarian, Bull Moose Party, Prohibition, or Populist Party?
Libertarian?
That is incorrect. The Bull Moose Party.
What in the hell?
All right, Robbie. Which presidential candidate holds the record for the most second place finishes? Adlai Stevenson, Aaron Burr, Henry Clay, William Jennings Bryan.
Adlai.
No, Williams Jennings Bryan. I don't know how many times, but let's see. Kevin Thaxton and Jacqueline Moore got Bull Moose, by the way.
Jacqueline Robinson.
All right. So the next one's for me. Who won the 1840 election with the slogan Tippecanoe and Tyler too? 1840. Okay, I'm going to think this through real quick. William Henry Harrison, Thomas Tippecanoe, James K. Polk, or Zachary Taylor? I am going with Taylor. Zachary Taylor. Oh.
I would have said Harrison. And see, I love the question because it makes you think it's the obvious answer, but that's the opponent.
Yeah. That's a good point. All right. So none of us have points. All right, let's see if we can do this. All right, Lizzie. Maine is one of the two states that do not apportion their electoral votes in a winner-takes-all format. What is the other state? Louisiana, New Hampshire, Nevada, or Nebraska? I think I know.
New Hampshire?
I was going to say Louisiana. No, it's Nebraska. All right. Let's see if we can get a point here. We're not doing very good with our election trivia.
These are difficult questions.
They are difficult. All right. Robbie, which third-party candidate is the U.S. presidential election secured? Well, I'm sorry. Which third-party candidate in the U.S. presidential election secured the highest percentage vote in 1992?
Ross Perot, baby.
Bill Clinton, Ross Perot, George Bush, or Andre? Yes, that is correct. Ross Perot.
You're welcome.
No. Ross Perot was definitely a person of interest in Canada. He caught his notoriety. Absolutely took hold in Canada. I knew who he was.
By the way, Mike Wolf got Nebraska right, and Jacqueline Robinson got a bunch of people. Looks like a day in Jacqueline Robinson got Ross Perot right.
How come y'all aren't texting me?
All right, Robbie. Well, you got 1 point. All right, this is for me. The first woman to run for presidency on a major party ticket in the United States was Lenora Fulani, Hillary Clinton, Jill Stein, or Sonia Johnson. The first woman to run for the presidency. This is a trick question. On a major party ticket. I'm going with Hillary Clinton. Okay, yes. All right. This is the final round.
Easy question.
This is the final round. We got to do a tiebreaker between Rob B and myself. Sorry, Lizzie, you're out. All right, Rob B, next question. The only president to get elected 4 times to the office. Ooh. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, James Madison, William McKinley, or Thomas Jefferson?
Lizzie, how come you're not texting me? What's going on?
Because you already didn't give me credit for Ross Perot.
Running out of time.
It's going to have to be an early one before the rule. Roosevelt.
That is correct. I knew that one. I was going to guess Roosevelt myself. All right. So I got to get the next answer, or we just go to a tie. Just call it a game. Which amendment of the United States Constitution limits the serving of the president to 2 terms? Third Amendment, Fifth Amendment, 15th Amendment, or 22nd Amendment? I believe that is the 22nd Amendment. Pretty confident on that one. All right.
Dang.
Robbie, what you got to do? I can't.
Questions in the bunch.
Robbie, I'm gonna give you the win here because I can't do like who says it faster because the lag time I'm gonna always say it faster. All right, good job, Robbie. Congratulations for the win. Good job. All right, let's get some final shout outs in. All right, Lizzie, shout outs.
Shout out to my students at Howard University. If any of you are watching, I still do not have a computer yet. So we will not be having Zoom class tomorrow. I don't know when we're going to have our next Zoom class. But hang in there. I'm still posting assignments via email, and you will be responsible for them.
Robbie?
Shout out to friends, family, the audience. Thank you for your participation. It's always such a treat when you're involved in the conversation, sharing your quips and your stories with us. It makes it a lot more fun. So thanks, everyone.
It does, yeah. My shout out goes to our audience today. It was a really lively bunch. So Ade, Kevin Thaxton, Mike Wolf, Jacqueline Robinson, Jose. Who else was here with us today? Arupka. We had a fun day. Paulette. Fun day. Thank you guys for joining the conversation. It's always special when you're joining in the conversation. So appreciate it. And that's all the time we have for today. I'd like to thank you all for joining us. We hope that maybe you learned something or gained a new perspective, even got some things off your chest. Don't forget, like, follow, subscribe, tweet Lizzie at TLS Live Show. She'll respond back. And if you missed any of today's episode, check out our clips online on YouTube, Facebook. They'll post tomorrow for you to share them out. Remember, you can also listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, Google, Alexa, you name it. I'm telling you, you'll be able to find our podcast, or simply go to tlspod.com. It was a fun day tonight, a lot of stuff going on. Don't forget to join us for Wednesday, 8 p.m., where we'll be doing our post-election show. Post-election show. We'll find out the big results. We'll know what's going down by then. A little scary, a little shaky, but we're gonna hope. We're gonna hope this one right here. We're gonna hope that one takes it. All right, Rob B, you got the final thought for winning the game.
Bring us home, brother.
So that's it. It's Canada and the rest of the world is watching you. So please get it right. Get it right on November 3rd, because we're all watching you. We're all hoping, praying, wishing the best. with minimal disruption. If anyone is thinking about going out and inciting any kind of disruption, stay home. Your countrymen don't need this. Your country needs all that energy to rebuild. Be great. I'm not going to say be great again, but be great.
All right. Thank you, Rob B. Go vote.
Thank
Go
you,
vote.
Robert.
Truth, lies, shenanigans.